This video is brought to you by Osmocote, the planter's plant food.
I'm Amy Grisak. I'm a garden writer in Great Falls, Montana, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the different greens that I like to grow in my garden. Now, one of the first things you're probably going to notice is you can't tell what's what planted around here. I have garlic going here, and there's dill underneath, and various poppies and flowers coming up, and different greens such as strawberry spinach. That's because one technique that I like to utilize is more of a polyculture planting method. In Great Falls, we're very, very dry, only about 13 inches of precipitation a year, and so retaining moisture is critical. And to top off the low precipitation, we often have 90, 100 degree temperatures during the summer and a lot of wind. Today is really rare that it's not blowing 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. So the wind absolutely desiccates everything. So one thing I do is plant a lot of my crops, double up on my crops. So in this bed behind me is actually the primary are onions, my copra onions. But when I planted these, I also seeded spinach because I knew the spinach would be done early. I would be pulling it, getting rid of it, and allowing more room for the onions to grow. Well, it just so happened that the chamomile grew too, and since I love chamomile, I can't pull it out yet until I get a good harvest off of it. And then I'll pull that out too. So by the time the spinach and the chamomile are out, the onions are getting bigger and taking up that space. But at least for now, this is keeping soil in place and keeping the soil from heating up too much. But back to my green talk. In here, like I said, is my spinach. And we're getting towards the end of the season, starting to get hot. But it's doing very, very well planted with the onions. And plus, it's also kind of a companion planting method. A lot of people have problems with flea beetles and other insects with spinach. But with the onions, they seem to leave it alone pretty well. So highly recommend planting your onions with your spinach. Now this very pretty plant right here is called auric, or miner's lettuce is another name for it. And it was brought over a lot in the homesteading, the pioneer days when people came over, because it's so incredibly hardy. It will grow anywhere, and it grows very early in the season. So this is good. It can get kind of tough later in the season, and it'll grow 4 or 5 feet tall. But it's really good for braising, and it's a nice fresh taste and a good way to get those greens in throughout the year. Now, another one of my favorite greens is kind of a funky, exotic looking thing called strawberry spinach or beetberry. It is in the Chenopodium family. But the cool thing about it is once you get it going, you're always going to have it. This is one of the first greens to pop up in the springtime. I'll usually have plants that I can start picking the tiny little leaves on in March or April, which is really nice because that's usually when the winter garden in the cold frame is starting to go downhill and kind of get a little raggy. It's good to have these fresh greens early on. Now the nice thing is too is you have these kind of cool looking little berries, kind of orangish red, mild taste, nothing outrageous or outstanding or anything like that. But it's nice that you can eat them, you could put them in salads, and plus they just look really nice in the garden too. But the one drawback with the strawberry spinach is it can be a little bit weedy. Once you get a plant going, each one of these has a whole bunch of little seeds in it, and so it tends to spread and reseed all over the place. But it's really easy to take out in the spring, or whenever you decide you've had enough, you need to contain it in an area, just weed it out and it's fine. So highly recommend strawberry spinach too to add to your green repertoire. And finally, I want to encourage you to let your lettuces go to seed. If you're growing an open pollinated variety versus a hybrid, once that heat starts coming on and they tend to bolt, a lot of us look at bolting as a bad thing because the lettuce gets bitter. But if you let it bolt, which means go to seed, you're going to have a whole lot of lettuce coming up next spring without any effort from your part. So once it's getting kind of yucky for the salad bowl, just let it do its thing, and next spring you're going to be delighted with a lot of early season lettuce that you never even had to plant. So hope I gave you a few good ideas on different greens and how to grow them. That's a little bit different than conventional methods, but by incorporating this, you really have a really good selection from very, very early into the year that can continue throughout the season. So go out and enjoy those greens.